Welcome back to Flathead Famous, brought to you by Engage Fitness, where we highlight the businesses, peoples, and stories shaping life in the Flathead Valley. Today, I'm sitting down with Debbie, one of our coaches here at Engage Fitness, who has been with us for 5 years, actually over 5 years. Debbie walked away from a career in the food service industry to pursue something that she was genuinely passionate about. She is a personal trainer, a nutritional habits coach, and she's just launching a new business called Momentum Meals. It's meal prep built specifically for busy professionals, parents, and providers of the Flathead Valley. This is a conversation about what it actually takes to change your health, your habits, and your life. Hey, Debbie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. What an introduction. I'm super excited to be here with you today.
Well, I'm very excited to have you. And, we've known each other for longer than 5 years. It's been so fun to watch how business has changed and how what you love to do and the visions you have really came to life.
I have learned so much from working with you, and it's been an honor to see the ins and out of Engage Fitness and to build a skill and a craft that will take me places throughout my lifetime.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you've learned a lot from my errors, so you don't have to make the same ones. But Debbie, you walked away from the food service industry to become a personal trainer and a nutrition coach. What do you feel like finally pushed you to make that change?
At the time, I was in my early 20s. And when I started in the food service industry, I started at coffee shops and then I worked up to diners and got into fine dining. And I knew there was something more for myself. I knew there was life beyond the restaurant. And I didn't want to become a sommelier. I didn't want to manage restaurants. I didn't want to stay in that industry that wasn't my own. And in my early 20s, I had joined a gym and I was taking classes at this gym and I was really getting things going and it felt super awesome. And the group fitness instructor, the manager at the time, invited me to teach a class. He said, "We're looking for a Zumba instructor. If you get licensed, you have a job." So I traveled to Portland. I got licensed as an instructor and came back. And after I taught my first class, I fell in love. I wasn't only helping myself, but I was helping other people.
I remember talking with you when you were going through that beginning stage of your journey, and ended up realizing that I had recognized you from one of the great restaurants here in the Flathead, only to turn out to interview you and then bring you on board with Engage Fitness. And so funny how your change in showing up at the gym actually turned into a whole career and a whole lifestyle change for you.
Yeah, once I taught my first class, I jumped in the rabbit hole. I was all in.
Yeah, you have a great history and a great journey for yourself, from your walk with food, your walk with fitness, now having a family. What has that been like through your years, adjusting your nutrition as your lifestyle has changed?
As a young person, as a teenage girl in high school, I thought that food and fitness was all about being smaller, being thinner. I didn't realize what sustainable habits were. I didn't realize how my workouts could support me, how nutrition could fuel my body. And through that journey, there was a lot of healing, changing my mindset of restriction and being as small as possible to how can I be as strong as possible? How can I be as healthy as possible? And what started as self loathing, as self hatred, turned into self love. And fitness has not only developed my body and my skills, but also my overall lifestyle, the way that I exist. And I couldn't imagine a life without fitness, without taking care of myself the best way that I can.
Yeah, I mean, look at you now. I think there is so many women, especially, that can relate to that. This idea that fit means being thin. And I'm so thankful how our culture is starting to change, where fitness is all about strength. Women are now not afraid to get strong. They're not afraid to have muscle definition. And, from your perspective, what is it that you think holds women back? Like, why they feel this need to be thin, or that strong or bulky is not something that we should be going after.
I can't speak for all women, but I know for myself that a lot of it was watching the trends, following the trends, seeing what was popular at the time, and my own personal issues. I wanted to be small. I wanted to be quiet. I wanted to be little. And that wasn't just inside, it was outside also. And we've learned over time, science has proven that even if you lift heavy weights, even if you strength train and you eat high protein and lots of fruits and veggies, it takes a lot of work to get really big and bulky. You don't just hit a workout and end up being a bodybuilder. That's a full life commitment. So, what we're seeing now is that you can work out, you can have some muscle, you can have strength so you can go out and live your life. You can go hiking, you can chase your kids around, you can carry baby in the car seat, and you won't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. The trends have really changed.
Yeah, I think it's a great thing that we're seeing that big shift. We're having a lot more people talk about it. In fact, you and I both know people, women that want to be huge. They want to be big, and doing it naturally is so difficult. I mean, they're going through bulking cycles where they're eating a ton of food and they put on body fat. Then they're going through cutting cycles where they're reducing calories so that they can show off the muscles that they've gained. And they would love to get bulky, and they're training hard, and it just doesn't happen. And so I agree with you. I'm glad that the culture is starting to shift. And you mentioned kind of lifestyle, being able to hike, being able to go out with the kids. When I think of that, I think of a specific client that we had that trained for us about 3 years. And she had some real challenges when she started with us. I'd like to discuss her programming because you were the coach that worked with her with what she was facing. Not so much about the workouts itself, but what was it like when she first started versus I think it was 3.5 years later when she started traveling, she got her life back. Now she's training on her own in another facility. What was that programming like for you, and how was she able to change?
This woman came to us barely being able to walk. She wasn't getting dressed on her own. Her husband was helping her get dressed. She wasn't taking care of herself. She wasn't living independently or really living at all. So when she came to us, she went through the assessment just like everyone else does, so I could get her baseline of where I could write her workouts. And we started from step one. We learned movement patterns and progressions. And I mean, I'm talking like we started with not being able to get up and down off the ground to by the time she left, she was getting off the ground unassisted, doing walking lunges, and she's living fully independently. I remember when she came into me and she said, "Debbie, I got dressed on my own today." And that was a huge win for her. She was
Yeah.
able to brush her hair on her own. She was cooking. There was one winter where the snowfall had been super bad and a tree had fallen in her driveway. She lives out in the boonies, and she had to park her car and walk a quarter mile, a half a mile up to her house. She did it all on her own. And when her husband came home, he was shocked because he was like, "Oh my gosh, honey, you were able to get to the house. You climbed over that log, no problem." So now she's off independently. She's traveling across the country to go visit her son and his new wife and working out on her own and living her life, actually living her life.
Yeah, I remember some of her initial goals were to be able to get off the ground, be able to carry firewood into the house, be able to walk to the end of their driveway. And they had a bunch of property, and that driveway was a long driveway. And I remember when she came in saying some of those same things. And I wish that was the story that most people knew about personal training and changing your nutrition, because for her, it was both of them. It was adjusting the quality of food she was eating, but it was also getting a little bit more fit. Can you talk about what it means between just like bodybuilding, which I think a lot of people, especially 50 plus, believe that the gym is about, So it's not bodybuilding, the difference between that and just getting fit for life?
Yeah, absolutely. My personal experience with bodybuilding is that's an all in 24/7 job. It's every meal, every bite, every macro is accounted for. Your training's regulated, your sleep is regulated, how many steps you're getting in a day, your cardio, every single thing you do is monitored for your sport. And gyms
Mhm.
these days, especially our approach, is more holistic and sustainable. So, what do you want to accomplish? You want to be able to get up off the ground, you want to be able to dress yourself. Let's make that work for you. So, it can start by 5 minutes on the treadmill. And once you're feeling good at 5 minutes, let's add 1 more minute. So you're going for 6 minutes. You're not going to come in and hit the ground running and have your coach make you run 3 miles in your first workout. If you're leaving the gym and you are so sore that you can't sit down on the toilet the next day, then you probably overdid it. What we're looking for are sustainable habits that you can incorporate to your daily life for your lifetime.
Yeah, well, and so many people think about fitness, longevity, lifestyle strength as something that is a completely different topic than their nutrition, or maybe not topic, but they put them in kind of two different baskets. Like over here, I had my workout, so therefore I could eat whatever I want, or vice versa. You know, I ate really good today, so I don't need to work out. But in truth, I think what we've seen over the last years is that if someone really wants to have change in their body, whether that's composition changes, you know, increase in muscle mass, decrease in body fat, that it's really the pairing of the two, the focused movement along with quality nutrition that really help make someone fit. And that's one of the things that you do really well when you're working. What happens when someone only addresses one versus the other?
We see this often enough. People want to join the gym. They think that they're going to torch a bunch of calories in their workout and they're going to drop a bunch of body fat just from working out the 3 hours a week. But what we're not looking at is the bigger picture and recognizing that it's all encompassing, that it goes hand in hand, that you need to eat the right amount of the right foods to support your workouts. If your goal is a fat loss goal, then you'll probably need to eat a little less, and changing the types of food that you're eating can help with that. Not only are there different kinds of foods like fruits and veggies that seem to be a little less calorically dense, they have less calories in them than, let's say, potato chips, but also the way that our body responds to those foods, the way that we use those nutrients are different. So if we're going into the gym and we're working out, whatever your split is, 3 times a week, 2 times a week, but you're not making changes to your nutrition, you'll probably get stronger and you'll probably see some change. But if we're not addressing the big picture, then you might not see the results that you want to see.
Right, and that investment for on both fronts is huge. The lifestyle fitness by working out is gonna help you get stronger, but if you're not eating according to your goal set as well, do you find that people get frustrated? Like, "Hey, I'm working out harder and I'm not losing any weight." You know, people say weight all the time. How do you help somebody with that?
We start by, what are you eating? What do your 23 hours outside of the gym look like? How much water are you drinking? How much protein are you getting in? How many fruits and veggies? What kinds of foods are you focused on? Are you super busy so you don't have time to cook? So you're eating lots of takeout, lots of processed foods? And if we can tackle at least one of those things, then we can start to make a change. So maybe you're
Mm.
so busy that you're not able to cook at home. What are you ordering when you go out to eat? Okay, your normal is a Chipotle bowl and you're loading it up with guac and cheese and vinaigrette. If your goal is a fat loss goal, maybe you're still getting the ball from Chipotle. You're not changing exactly what you're doing or you're not reinventing the wheel, but you're taking out some of the added calories. So maybe you do your Chipotle bowl without the vinaigrette or without the cheese. And finding ways that you can change the habit slightly without going crazy and stressing yourself out over completely shifting your life.
Yeah, I think this is a tough concept for a lot of people to grasp is that they want to train and then they want to eat whatever they want and think that it kind of cancels itself out. The unpopular, well, it's not even unpopular, it just doesn't make people happy when they realize that sometimes on a fat loss journey means you're going to get hungry because you are calorically eating less food, which does tell your hormones that you need to eat more, you want to eat more. However, there are some ways that we can kind of combat the leptin and the ghrelin conversation that's happening in our body. Are there a couple of things that if someone's listening to this going, "Hey, I'm working out hard, but I'm not changing my nutrition. I know I need to." What are some things that they can do to maybe feel fuller a little longer or maybe be a little more satiated, Debbie?
By design, we're meant to survive. So when we're in a fat loss phase, when we're a little bit hungrier because we're in a calorie deficit, we're using stored energy, which is our body fat, where our body's telling us that, hey, we need food. And those are those hunger hormones, that ghrelin and leptin that you mentioned that start going off. And we can combat that by eating foods that are higher in fiber, your fruits and veggies. And those foods typically have a lot of water density to them. So they have less calories in them. So not only are we getting fiber, which helps keep us fuller for longer, and we're also getting in water, which will help take up some of that stomach space. So not only adding in more fruits and veggies to your diet can help with your satiety, with helping you in a fat loss phase feel less hungry, but also getting in adequate protein. So getting in enough protein to support the muscle that you already have, but that also helps with your satiety. It takes a little longer to digest protein than it does simple carbohydrates or fats. So it sits in our stomach and it moves through our intestines, it moves through our digestive system at a little bit of a slower pace. So we feel a little more satiated. If we can combine the two, a protein with some fiber, even in a fat loss phase, it should help you stay a little fuller for longer.
And we've seen our best clients that have had the greatest body composition change have really grabbed onto that fiber and protein portion. And so I'm glad you brought that up. There's a kind of a misnomer right now that you can always be in a fat loss phase. And maybe you can address that a little bit and talk about the importance of being in a maintenance phase for a period of time.
One of those people that thought you could forever live in a fat loss phase and cut calories and just keep going lower and lower and lower, but that's
What?
not
You can't do that?
sustainable. Oh my gosh, no, we are not created to exist like that. So what I have found that works really well, not only for myself, I've seen it work for clients as well, is to take your fat loss phase in a phase. So what that can look like is if your goal is, let's say, 1 pound a week, you want to lose 8 to 10 pounds. Let's approach it as 1 pound a week for 8 weeks. And we'll cut your calories a little lower. We'll keep protein the same. It's typically carbs and fats that we cut a little lower. We'll drop the weight, drop the 8 to 10 pounds. And then once you hit that goal, we're going to bump up your calories a little bit. And what that tells your system is, hey, I'm okay. I'm not starving. I don't need to drop muscle mass. We're okay. Your central nervous system, your stress hormone can calm down a little bit. That bump in calories will give you a little extra energy and you might be feeling a little happier. Then, if you're still wanting to drop some body fat, we can go into a fat loss phase again. But fat loss is never linear. And if you're truly tracking and you're being specific with your fat loss goals, it's not going to be that downward trend. It will be more of like stair steps down. Same with muscle building. just an opposite kind of approach.
Right. Well, when we talk with our average client, the idea of losing fat is very it's very sexy. Like I want to have fat loss, right? Like that's everyone's goal, want to fit into this idea. Yet in order to do that, you have to maintain your health. And maintenance phases allow you to to maintain your sanity. You and I have both been in low percentages of body fat where you start to go a little bit crazy. Right? Did you experience that I mean, you got a lot leaner than I did, but did you experience that like craziness of like, I can't stop thinking about food or I can't think clearly because I'm so hungry right now?
Not only did I experience that, but those around me experienced that side of me. There were things out of my control that I mean, it was a constant thought about food. I was obsessed about food. When I pull up social media, it was food content. When I go to bed, I'd talk to my partner at the time and say, "Man, all I want to eat is a head of iceberg lettuce. I am so hungry." And when I get that food, I could feel the dopamine, like, I could feel the happy hormones going through me, and it wouldn't last for long. I'd be hungry right away, or I wouldn't even be satiated from that food, and then I would be thinking about my next meal. I was never satisfied, never sustained. I wanted to hit that fat loss for a goal of stepping on stage, but as soon as I stepped off that stage, I was ready to eat, and I ate. It was uncontrollable. It was to the point where I was binge eating, and when I go to the grocery store, I'd buy things that weren't on my list because I had just lost full control of what my hunger cues were and how to eat in a sustainable way. Everything was out of whack.
Yeah, it's such a classic rebound for most people that end up going through a quote diet, right? Which is why we take the approach of let's not look at a diet. Let's look at how can we make sustainable changes in our lifestyle that can last forever. Because people who go on diets who make extreme changes, the actual likelihood of them maintaining that over a 3-year period of time, I think is like less than 10%. I don't, you may know that stat, but the challenge is you make these drastic changes that your body's not ready for. You can't sustain it. Therefore, you end up craving everything else because it's so crazy that you end up rebounding and swinging the other way. Have you found that as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, I from personal experience, I've done a fad diet. I've gone no carbohydrates or low carbohydrates and thinking that this is for a period of time and I lose the fat, I get leaner, but not only did I lose fat, is I lost muscle. And then when I go back to my quote unquote regular eating, I put on weight again, but I'm in a worse place than when I started because I'm not building that muscle back. I'm just putting on body fat. And that's where we can see a lot of people get frustrated. They'll follow a strict diet plan for a period of time until the decision fatigue hits or they hit their fat loss goal. Usually it's decision fatigue. But then they get to this point where the gloves are off and they don't care and they're back to their old eating habits. What they were doing, the diet they chose wasn't sustainable. And then they're putting on more weight than they did before. They end up weighing more than they did before because their hunger cues were all wackadoodle and they ended up eating the entire fridge and their mindset has shifted around food. Everything becomes so negative and it's such a black and white pendulum swing that it's not sustainable. So, if we can
Hmm.
approach fat loss as just one piece of the puzzle, this is for a period of time, but we focus on the habit change, changing your life, then when you hit your goal weight or you're in a place where you're feeling healthy, you're feeling confident, you're feeling good in your clothes, and you're able to do the things that you want, then coming out of that fat loss phase is a lot more sustainable. And then at that point, where mostly just doing an increase of the foods that you're already eating.
Right. And for a lot of people coming out of a fat loss phase, That simply just means gradually increasing calories until you get back to your maintenance caloric load. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. If you're eating the right types of food, if you're getting in enough protein, your fruits and veggies, you're focused mostly on whole foods, then once you're finished with your fat loss phase, we'll start increasing food slowly. So it won't look like you're going from whatever your deficit is, 1,800, 2,000 calories to 3,000 calories. We'll probably add in a little more. And for people that don't track macros, that can look like have an afternoon snack. Instead of reaching for a diet soda to kind of curb those hunger cues, you're having a banana with peanut butter or a protein bar, whatever that looks like for you. But it's not saying, okay, I'm off my diet, I'm done now. It's just a slight increase of the foods you are already eating.
Well, and we're kind of seeing this happening with GLP-1s right now. We have people that we know that are on Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever the GLP-1 might be that for a moment of time are unable to eat because of the way that the GLP-1 is changing the way their digestion is and their hunger hormones, their cues. But then when they're coming off of it, they, in some cases, go right back to the same eating habits and actually have some rebound. And in some cases, rebound to a worse place they were from when they started. That said, we've had several clients who have been on GLP-1s who are now off of them and have been able to maintain their fat loss, have been able to continue to get stronger, and via our in-body scans has shown that there's actually been muscle mass that has been gained through that period of time. What do you think separates an individual who's on a GLP-1 from losing a ton of weight, which would be muscle mass and fat mass and potentially things like bone density, versus the other one who primarily loses fat mass but maintains bone density and overall muscle mass? What's the difference between those two?
What they are eating is the key and how much they are eating. So I've seen both ways. I've seen people who utilize a GLP-1 and they just don't eat. And when they do eat, it's a very small amount, but it's of the foods that they're used to eating, like baked mac and cheese or chips and dip, things that are higher in carbohydrates, higher in fat, which they do give us some energy. But when you're utilizing a drug like a GLP-1 and it's changing the way that your body's working and processing food and changing the way that your hunger cues are. The focus should be on your health, what is going to support your systems the best, knowing that you're going into a deficit. So, the people that I've seen utilizing GLP-1s and have success with maintaining their muscle mass, but still dropping some body fat, they're focused on getting in enough protein and they're eating fruits and veggies when they can. Definitely protein seems to be the big kicker with utilizing a GLP-1. If you're not getting in enough protein, then we'll start to lose some of that muscle mass. If you're surviving off of carbohydrates and fats, your muscle won't be sustained.
Right. I think the other part along with nutrition is people continuing to strength train. Resistance training will help you reduce the amount of muscle mass that you lose and help retain the bone density that you want to take, especially as a female as you age, right? There are challenges with bone density that you could potentially face that most men wouldn't face, but resistance training has showed to decrease that likelihood of that happening. And in a lot of cases, the osteoporosis risk goes down and the bone density actually goes up. And so would you say that the combination of both when you are hungry to eat, eating more whole foods, protein focused, fiber focused, and doing some sort of a strength training program is kind of a 1-2 punch if you're on a GLP-1?
They definitely go hand in hand. You can be on a GLP-1 and eating all the protein in the world, but if you're not strengthening and conditioning, you're not utilizing your muscles, there is potential for more atrophy. But if you're stimulating your muscles, if you're keeping the muscle mass that you have activated you're more likely to preserve more of that muscle mass.
So if there's someone listening right now they're being pretty active, they're staying fit, but their nutrition's kind of all over the place, what's one thing or maybe the first thing that you would tell them?
If we're going with a blanket statement, it would be to focus on your whole foods. I mean, there's so many different directions we could go with it, depending on the person and what their lifestyle is. But if you're focused on whole foods, then you're probably getting in produce, your fruits and veggies, complex carbohydrates, and a good source of protein.
Sometimes you hear people talk about when you're discussing whole food, you hear them talk about, well, those foods aren't fun. Talk to that a little bit. If someone's complaining about eating whole food because it's not the food that they've grown to love, how do you help them with that?
Whole foods can be not fun if you're eating boiled chicken and steamed broccoli and not using any seasoning. Uh, but spices add so much to the foods that we eat, and they don't have a lot of calories. They typically have a little bit of vitamins and minerals in them. So you can take that boiled chicken breast and turn it into a chicken teriyaki stir fry, or you can turn it into some sort of like chicken tacos, or you can change it by the spices that you're utilizing. So for myself, I know I focus on a lot of whole foods. I've been doing this for a little while now. And maybe I'm cooking a batch of chicken for the week that my family's eating on, but that doesn't mean that we're having that boiled chicken every night. We're having things like the chicken stir fry or chicken tacos, but I'm focused on the whole foods. So, what that can look like, let's just use the stir fry for example. I've got my cooked chicken breast, and then I'm taking veggies from the fridge. I eat your rainbow, whatever it is you like, go ahead and eat those veggies. Chop them up, throw them in the pan with the chicken, add a little bit of oil so it doesn't all stick. And then I'll throw in some rice and add in some seasonings, add in some soy sauce, add in a little sesame oil, ginger, garlic. And then I've got a super bomb stir fry instead of eating my chunk of chicken breast and the plain white rice on the side and the plain veggies. Just by spicing it up and the way that you're cooking it, it can make some really tasty foods.
Do you feel most people's not wanting to cook is because they don't know how to cook? Or they haven't been trained, or that they think that they don't have time? I mean, what's holding people back from preparing their own foods, even if it's not meal prep for a week? Maybe it's just dinner time.
I think it's a lack of skill, especially with having access to the internet. We can really figure out how to cook anything. What seems to be the problem is time restriction and not having a plan. So if you're like me and you have kids and you're out of the house for most of the day. So you're gone from 8 to 5. When I get home, when people get home, they don't want to spend an hour or two cooking, figuring out what's for dinner, what am I going to make, and then spending all of this time in the kitchen. So, what seems to be the biggest uh, roadblock for people eating more whole foods is not having a plan, not being prepared, not knowing what they're going to cook, and then not having a plan to execute it.
Yeah, I would agree. Most lack of preparation is where people get caught in a position where let's just get something fast. By that time they decide where to go, how much to spend, transporting it back and forth, they could have just made a meal that was more satiating, lined up with their overall health goals and longevity goals in the long run as well. And it is the preparation side of it that I found is a bigger challenge for most people.
Right. But what we don't tend to wrap our heads around, like we think about cooking dinner and we think about, okay, I have to get out the chicken breast and season it and put it in the pan or bake it in the oven and put it on the grill. And then I have to chop up all these veggies and we want to do pasta salad with it. So I got to boil the pasta and then put sauce with that. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. We have access to so much that, I mean, even picking up pre cooked chicken breasts, that can take some time out of the process, or picking up veggies that have already been cut and chopped. Then you can just throw them in the pan and saute them. or
Mhm.
cooking extra in advance. You're cooking dinner on Monday, cook a little extra so you have some of that chicken breast or whatever it is for the next dinner. Then you can turn it into something else. But having that plan and being a little more prepared will help you be successful. And then if you already have a plan for dinner, you know what you're going to make, there's no decision to be made. You don't have to think about what's for dinner. You just have to go and execute it.
Right. Well, and that kind of leads us into a new thing that you're starting up, which I'm really excited for you about. You're launching Momentum Meals, which is a meal prep specifically for busy professionals, parents, and providers in the Flathead. What gap are you really trying to fill that nobody else is addressing?
The gap I saw working with the clients that we work with was these guys are busy. These guys are the movers and shakers. I mean, some of these people are working 12, 14-hour days and they're putting everything they have into their businesses, into their families, into their churches, into other activities that at the end of the day, they don't have time for themselves. So when it comes to lunchtime or dinner time or even breakfast, doesn't matter what mealtime it is, they're reaching for convenience. They might be making the healthiest choice that they can, like that Chipotle bowl I was talking about earlier, but it's still not the best option. So the gap that I'm filling with Momentum Meals is providing whole foods that taste good, specific to the individual, that takes out that time of preparation and also helps with that decision fatigue.
Yeah. So if I'm a new client and I'm interested in what you've got going on, what's the process look like to get started with you?
It's a pretty simple process to get started. You don't even have to reach out to me directly. We don't even have to have a conversation if you don't want to. You never have to talk to me. Uh, but in order to get started, you head to the site momentummeals.square.site. You pick the meal options you want. You can get a single meal, you can get 5 meals, you can get 10 meals, and then there's a drop down. So you pick the flavors. We start with what plan you want. If you want a muscle builder meal, if you want a fat loss meal, if you want a maintenance meal, we also have a plant based option. From there, you pick your protein, what kind of meat do you want in your meals, what kind of veggies you want, your carbohydrate choice. Do you want rice? Do you want potatoes? Do you want cauliflower rice? And then you choose your sauce. We'll prepare it, package it up, and bring it to you. So you don't have to think about it. You can prepare yourself for the week. So once lunchtime hits, all you have to do is pop it in the microwave and you're good to go.
That's awesome. So are these meals that they need to go somewhere and pick up? Are they meals that are delivered daily? Is there fees for those services? How does that work?
Right now, since we're just starting up, the only option is delivery. I don't have a pickup location yet, but you'll order your meals. We ask for the order a week in advance. So Thursday's our cutoff time. Then by the following Tuesday, you'll have your meals delivered to you. So I'll be reaching out to confirm a drop off time to make sure that it works for you. So you're not having your food sit outside in the hot sun waiting for you for when you get home. And from there, all you have to do is eat and execute. If you want to order again, then it is up to you. You got to hop back on and go through the order process. But really, it's what do you need us to be for you?
When I was on the website earlier this week, and it looks very easy to navigate. I've had some of your food that has been prepared before. I'm really excited about your protein bars. I got to sample one of those today. Super great flavor. And this is really a niche in the market for busy professionals. Is your hope that somebody would want to get to the point where their lunches are just provided by Momentum Meals and then that way they can just stay focused throughout their day? Or what's the long term vision on this?
The long term vision is to support the busy people who feel like they don't have time for themselves, time to cook a meal for themselves. So we'll do it for you. We'll support you where you're lacking, and you can have the flavors that you want. You can still have the food that you like, but when you're eating a momentum meal, you know that you're getting nutritious food that's going to support your health and support you long term.
Yeah, I believe it. The ingredients list is fresh. There's a ton of options for how you want to customize your meal. You know, if there's someone who's been waiting kind of for the right time, whether it's training or nutrition or looking for something like momentum meals, what would you want to say to them?
Whatever it is, whether it's your training, your nutrition, hiring a meal prep service, take that next step. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. You don't have to fully submerge yourself into the pool. You can dip your toes in. So if it's your training, start with putting your shoes on. Let's go walking for 5 minutes and see how that feels. If it's your nutrition you want to better, start with drinking more water or adding a fruit or a veggie into your day. Start small, something that you can achieve, feel successful about, and sustain long term. Because if you can get that one wheel going, then you can start to get the next wheel going and the next wheel going and the next wheel going. And then not before long, you've completely changed your life. You'll be feeling better. You'll be living better. You'll actually feel like you're living. But if I could tell someone one thing who's about to start their journey is just take the first step. Just try it. Just do one
Yeah, it's like Frozen 2 and Elsa singing take the right next step, you know? Like if you don't know what you're going to do, just take the right next step. And I think that'll teach all day to every individual no matter what realm you're in. You know, if Debbie's story resonated with you, whether you're ready to get stronger, to sort out your nutrition or just take one step, you can reach out to Momentum Meals for meal prep. You can go to engagefitnessmontana.com, click book consultation and get a free consultation. And you might meet with myself, you may meet with Debbie. Either way, we want to help get you on the right track. Keep an eye out for Momentum Meals, Debbie's meal prep service. Remember, it's built for busy people of this valley, and that's launching now, right? It's up and going right now, Debbie?
Yeah, right now, if you're hungry, holler at me.
That's right. Well, thanks everyone for listening to Flathead Famous. We'll be back with more stories from the people and businesses shaping this valley. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks, Ryan. This was awesome.
We'll see you later.